The alien vessels appeared suddenly in Earth's orbit in 2157, their massive hulls blocking out the stars like floating mountains against the black of space. 17 ships in total, each the size of a small city, their surfaces rippling with strange blue energy that sensors couldn't properly analyze. For 3 days they hovered silently, ignoring all attempts at communication. Still no response on any frequency, reported Communications Officer Yuna, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface at Earth Command Headquarters. Dark circles had formed under her eyes after 72 hours without sleep. "We've tried every language, mathematical sequence, and universal greeting protocol." Admiral Kim nodded grimly. A veteran of the Pan-Asian space conflicts, his weathered face had seen too many battles to hold any childlike wonder about first contact. "Keep trying, and make sure our defense grid stays at full power." The screens surrounding the command center showed the global reaction, crowds gathering in major cities, religious leaders calling for calm, scientists working frantically to understand the visitors' technology. Most faces showed awe and excitement rather than fear. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries. "Admiral," called Tactical Officer Jin, his voice suddenly tight. Energy spike detected from the lead vessel. Before anyone could react, a blinding beam of light erupted from the largest alien ship, not aimed at Earth but shooting past the planet toward Mars. The command center fell silent as they watched the beam connect with the red planet, where 300,000 colonists had built humanity's first permanent off-world settlement. "Get me Mars colony!" shouted Admiral Kim. But Communications Officer Yuna was already shaking her head, tears forming in her eyes. "All channels to Mars colony are dead, sir." The tactical display told the horrible truth. Where Mars colony had stood, a massive impact crater now smoldered, visible even from Earth's telescopes. Without warning or declaration, the aliens had vaporized humanity's greatest achievement and everyone living there. They just killed them all," whispered someone in the command center. The alien vessels began moving, spreading out in a formation that any military strategist would recognize, a blockade pattern. On the lead ship, Commander Day of the Stellar Alliance studied the holographic representation of the solar system with cold efficiency. His six-fingered hand moved through the display, tagging key resources within the system. "The Mars outpost has been eliminated," he reported to his 3 superiors whose ghostly images floated before him. "These humans show minimal resistance. Their technology is at least 3 generations behind ours." The central figure among his superiors, Elder Moon, spoke in their clicking language. "Any response to our display of power?" "Their primitive vessels are scrambling, but they have no weapons capable of penetrating our shields," Day responded. The resource surveys were accurate. This system contains exceptional mineral deposits and the perfect conditions for our expansion. Once we've processed the inhabitants, colonization can begin immediately. On Earth, chaos erupted as news of the Mars attack spread. The United Nations Space Command activated emergency protocols as civilian populations panicked. Earth's orbital defense platforms, designed for asteroids and theoretical threats, swung into position, pitiful against the overwhelming alien. Force Admiral Kim addressed the emergency assembly of world leaders, his voice steady, despite the horror they had all witnessed. Representatives from every nation on Earth had gathered in the underground facility in Geneva, faces ashen with shock. "They struck without provocation or warning," he said, his words echoing in the cavernous hall. "This was not a misunderstanding or an accident. The attack was precise, designed to eliminate our most vulnerable colony before targeting Earth itself." The assembly erupted in shouting. Some leaders called for immediate surrender to avoid Earth suffering Mars's fate. Others demanded retaliation with nuclear weapons, a futile gesture against the advanced alien shields. Admiral Kim slammed his fist against the podium. "Enough! We have hours, maybe days before they move against Earth directly. Every second we waste arguing is a second we're not preparing." The room quieted as Kim's tactical officer Jin stepped forward, activating a holographic display showing Earth's combined military assets. "Our conventional weapons will be useless," Jin explained, "but we have advantages they don't expect. First, our underground facilities were built to withstand nuclear war. we can protect significant populations. Second, we've been intercepting their communications. Their language encryption is complex but not impossible to crack. A scientist stepped forward, Dr. Hanna, head of xenobiology research. And most importantly, we've detected unusual radiation patterns from their ships. They're not just machines, they're partially biological. This gives us potential vulnerabilities to exploit. The Brazilian president raised her hand. But our space fleet was designed for exploration, not warfare. We have nothing that can touch them. Admiral Kim's eyes narrowed. Then we build something that can. Humanity has spent its entire history fighting wars. We've developed more ways to fight than any species could imagine. Project Prometheus was deemed too dangerous for deployment, but now, he looked around the room at the assembled leaders. They believe they've dealt a crushing blow to break our spirit. They expect surrender or disorganized resistance. They don't understand what they've awakened. His voice dropped to a near whisper that somehow carried to everyone present. They struck first. Now we must show them why that was their greatest mistake. As the meeting continued, orbital telescopes captured images of the alien fleet deploying smaller vessels. The invasion was beginning. In his command ship, Commander Day received curious readings from Earth. Rather than the expected panic and disarray, human communications had suddenly become organized and encrypted. He dismissed it as insignificant. After all, what could these primitives possibly do against the might of the Stellar Alliance? He would soon learn the answer. While the aliens established their blockade, Earth mobilized in ways Commander Day never anticipated. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Admiral Kim strode through sliding doors into humanity's last hope, Project Lazarus. "Status report," he demanded, his voice echoing across the cavernous underground hangar where thousands of engineers and scientists worked around the clock. Dr. Han looked up from her workstation, dark circles under her eyes. "After 4 days without proper sleep, we've activated all dormant projects, Admiral. Things are moving faster than I thought possible." Around them, rival nations' top scientists worked side by side, Russian quantum physicists collaborating with American weapons developers, Chinese AI experts programming alongside European robotics engineers. 6 weeks ago, these people wouldn't share a meal together. Now they shared humanity's desperate secrets. On the main viewing screen, satellite imagery showed the alien fleet deploying smaller craft to strategic positions around Earth. Their formation was perfect, methodical, and predictable. "They're following standard military doctrine," noted General Park, head of the Asian Defense Coalition. "Almost like they're reading from a textbook." "That's exactly what they're doing," Admiral Kim replied. "They've never faced a species that fought back. They don't need creativity." Aboard the command vessel of the Stellar Alliance, Commander Day reviewed the invasion timeline with his officers. Everything proceeded according to protocol. Blockade established, scout ships deployed, human military assets identified for systematic elimination. "Their military technology seems primitive," Day told Science Officer June, his six-fingered hand dismissively waving over holographic images of Earth's space stations and defense satellites. "Victory will be swift." June's 4 eyes narrowed, slightly as she studied the human transmissions they'd intercepted. "I'm not certain, Commander. Their communications suggest they're adapting quickly. The encryption patterns have changed 3 times since yesterday alone." "Primitive encryptions are still primitive," Day responded. "Begin the targeted strikes. Take out their major military installations first." The alien vessels moved with precision, energy weapons powering up as they approached their first targets, military bases in North America. As the beams fired, something unexpected happened. The bases shimmered and disappeared, replaced by empty land. "Holograms?" June's voice carried surprise. "They're using projection technology to hide their true positions." Commander Day's skin darkened with anger. "Find their actual bases. Now." Back on Earth, Dr. Han stood in a reinforced chamber surrounded by fragments of alien technology recovered from small scout ships that had been lured into traps. Her team had discovered something revolutionary. "Their tech isn't just advanced, it's partially biological," she explained to Admiral Kim. "These circuit pathways are grown, not manufactured, and they respond to specific radiation frequencies. In another section of the facility, Engineer Tay had reverse-engineered the alien shield technology from observation alone. Their energy fields operate on a frequency modulation we can track, he demonstrated, showing how Earth's existing satellite network could be repurposed to detect shield weaknesses. Meanwhile, in a high-security wing, Dr. Sung worked with nanobots originally designed for cancer treatment. If we reprogram these to target the biological components of their technology. She didn't need to finish. Admiral Kim understood the implications. How long, he asked. 2 weeks for full deployment, Dr. Sung replied. Maybe sooner. We don't have 2 weeks, Admiral Kim stated flatly. We have days at most before they locate our real facilities. In Geneva, the AI supercomputer nicknamed Deep Thought worked through millions of combat simulations, analyzing every recorded human conflict from ancient battles to modern warfare. It identified patterns the aliens wouldn't expect: sacrificial, diversions, apparent retreats that were actually traps, and the human willingness to sustain losses for strategic advantage. By the 4th day of the invasion, the aliens had found only decoys and empty bases. Their frustration grew visible in increasingly erratic attack patterns. In orbit, a small, seemingly defenseless human shuttle approached one of the smaller alien vessels. The aliens, expecting easy prey, allowed it to come close, not recognizing that the shuttle's hull had been infused with experimental nanomaterials. When it detonated, the explosion wasn't powerful, but it didn't need to be. The nanomaterials attached to the alien ship's hull, burrowing into the semi-organic circuitry. Within hours, the ship's systems began failing mysteriously. Commander Day received the report with growing concern. 1 ship is acceptable losses. Continue the search for their command centers. Commander, June interrupted, unusual urgency in her voice. I've been analyzing their historical records from their public data networks. These humans, they've been at war with themselves continuously for their entire recorded history. They have developed more ways to kill than any species we've encountered. And yet their technology is inferior, Day countered. Yes, but their tactics... June pulled up images of ancient human battles, showing flanking maneuvers, ambushes, guerrilla warfare. They don't fight like us, they don't follow protocols, they adapt. In underground facilities across Earth, humanity's adaptability was on full display. Dr. Han activated military projects deemed too dangerous during peacetime, autonomous combat drones with distributed AI that couldn't be hacked, EMP weapons, modified to target the specific frequencies used by alien technology, and orbital platforms disguised as space debris. Former bitter rivals shared classified research. Russian cold fusion technology merged with American drone designs. Chinese quantum communication systems integrated with European tactical AI. They think we're defenseless, Admiral Kim told his international team as they reviewed the deployment schedule. But humans have been perfecting warfare against ourselves for thousands of years. Now we finally have a common enemy. The first true counterattack wouldn't be flashy or direct. Humanity had learned from watching the aliens that overwhelming force wasn't their only option. A small team of astronauts piloting ships with heat signatures disguised as space debris attached to the hulls of 3 alien vessels simultaneously. They weren't carrying bombs. They carried Dr. Han's reprogrammed nanobots, designed to infiltrate the biomechanical systems of the alien ships. As night fell over North America, Admiral Kim received the first confirmation. 1 alien destroyer had gone dark, its systems completely disabled by technology originally designed to heal human cells. It's working, Dr. Han whispered, almost afraid to believe it. 1 ship down, Admiral Kim replied, his face illuminated by tactical displays showing the positions of Earth's hidden fleet. Now we show them what humanity does best. We fight back. 6 months after the initial attack, humanity revealed its true nature. The alien blockade had settled into a routine. Their massive ships positioned strategically around Earth, occasionally sending down smaller vessels to neutralize what they believed were human-resistant strongholds. In reality, they'd been destroying elaborate decoys while the real preparation happened elsewhere. Commander Day slept in his private quarters aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion, his first deep rest in days. The Stellar Alliance's conquest had taken far longer than projected, but victory still seemed inevitable. The humans were hiding, their major military assets destroyed, their space capabilities limited to futile skirmishes. The shrill sound of emergency alarms jerked him from sleep. Disoriented, Day stumbled to his feet, the lighting panels automatically brightening to full intensity. "Command Center, report!" he barked into the communication system. When no response came, he rushed to his personal terminal, pulling up the ship's status display. Red warning indicators flashed across every section. The door to his quarters slid open as Officer Sun burst in, his normally composed demeanor shattered. "Commander, we're under attack." "Impossible," Day snapped. "From where?" "Earth has no weapons capable of simultaneous attacks on 7 of our outposts," Sun interrupted, something he would never have done under normal circumstances. "They've somehow adapted our shield technology and developed weapons specifically targeting our biological systems." Day pushed past Sun into the corridor. Emergency lights pulsed as crew members rushed to battle stations. The ship trembled under what felt like multiple impacts. "Show me," he ordered when they reached the command center. The main display activated, splitting into 7 feeds, showing Stellar Alliance vessels under assault. What Day saw defied everything he knew about warfare. Small human craft, clearly cobbled together from primitive materials, were swarming his ships like insects, but they moved with perfect coordination, targeting specific shield nodes with weapons that shouldn't exist in human arsenals. "How are they penetrating our shields?" Day demanded. The science officer's voice trembled. "They're using modulating frequencies that match our shield harmonics, technology they couldn't possibly have developed so quickly unless they've been studying us," Day finished the thought. "While we thought they were hiding, they were learning." Another violent shudder ran through the ship. The tactical display showed 3 Alliance vessels already disabled, their biomechanical systems failing under targeted attacks. "The humans, in Sector 4, Sun reported with disbelief. "They're deliberately crashing their ships into our shield gaps." On the screen, Day watched as small human fighters, each carrying only 1 pilot, accelerated directly toward microscopic fluctuations in his ship's defensive shields. The pilots couldn't possibly survive, yet they flew with unwavering determination. "No species would sacrifice so many for tactical gain," Day whispered, a new sensation creeping through his body. Fear. Near the lunar surface, Captain Park sat, in the command chair of the hastily constructed battle cruiser Phoenix. 6 months earlier, she had been a naval officer commanding a submarine. Now she led humanity's most ambitious counteroffensive, implementing strategies born from Earth's long history of warfare at sea. "Formation Delta," she ordered calmly. "Execute Wolfpack maneuvers." The bridge crew, a mixture of naval officers from 5 different Earth nations, responded with practiced efficiency. On the main screen, their attack fleet split into 5 smaller groups, each targeting a different section of the massive alien battleship designated Target Alpha. "They're adjusting shield power to the forward sections," reported Tactical Officer Kwan. "Exactly as predicted." Park nodded. "Ancient naval battles taught us that when the enemy reinforces one position, they must weaken another. Launch disruptors. Now." From the belly of the Phoenix, dozens of small drones emerged, each carrying a payload of nanobots programmed to target the bio-neural pathways that powered alien technology. They accelerated toward the seemingly impenetrable battleship, aiming for the now vulnerable rear sections. "Captain, they're launching interceptors," warned the sensor officer. "Good," Park replied with a cold smile. "Implement Sun Tzu protocol." Half of the human fleet suddenly powered down, appearing to drift helplessly. The alien vessels, programmed to prioritize functioning targets, ignored them, not recognizing one of humanity's oldest military deceptions. "Playing dead," Park explained to a young officer beside her. "Admiral Yi used it against the Japanese in 1592. The enemy passes what they think are disabled vessels, then finds themselves surrounded. The alien interceptors shot past the seemingly dead human ships, which immediately powered back up and attacked from behind. Caught in a classic pincer movement, the alien vessels found themselves trapped between 2 forces. Meanwhile, the main assault team reached the alien battleship's hull. Unlike conventional boarding parties, These soldiers wore exoskeletons originally designed for deep-sea exploration, modified with cutting tools that could penetrate the semi-organic hull material. "We are attached to the target," reported the assault team leader. Beginning penetration. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Day watched in horror as humans physically cut their way into one of his most powerful vessels. How are they breaching containment? The internal defense systems should be eliminating them. "That's the problem, sir," Officer Sun replied. "The defense systems aren't recognizing them as threats. They've found a way to mask their biological signatures." On the screens, Day watched as primitive humans in bulky suits moved through his ship's corridors undetected by automated systems designed to target organic intruders. They were somehow registering as part of the ship itself. "Impossible," he repeated. But the evidence was undeniable. Captain Park received the confirmation she'd been waiting for. "Boarding team has reached the central processor, implementing override protocols now." The alien battleship's weapon systems suddenly went dark. Then, impossibly, its engines ignited, changing course. "We've done it," breathed the navigation officer. "We've captured their ship." Park allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before issuing her next order. "Begin Phase 2, download everything." Across Earth's solar system, the counterattack unfolded with a precision that belied how quickly it had been planned. Human forces that had been hiding in asteroid fields, beneath the clouds of Venus, and in stealth facilities on the far side of the Moon engaged simultaneously. On Earth, Admiral Kim watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. "Send word. To all commands. Operation Reckoning is proceeding as planned. Prepare Phase 3. In the chaos of battle, Commander Day struggled to understand how his certain victory had transformed into this nightmare. He had studied hundreds of conquered species across the galaxy. None had ever mounted such a response after initial defeat. "Impossible," he whispered again, watching humans deliberately crash smaller vessels to create gaps in his defenses, sacrificing their lives without hesitation. His tactical algorithms couldn't predict enemies willing to die by the thousands for incremental advantages. "What kind of species are they?" The answer came from Officer June, who had been analyzing human history. "Commander, they're not just fighters. They're predators who've been fighting themselves since they first walked upright. This is what they do best." As Earth forces pushed forward, Intelligence Officer June secluded herself in her private research chamber aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion. The walls were covered with displays showing human historical records, military campaigns, and battle formations spanning thousands of years. She had been collecting this data since the first unexpected resistance, searching for patterns that might explain how these supposedly primitive beings were now destroying the mighty Stellar Alliance fleet. Her 4 eyes blinked rapidly as new information streamed in. Footage of human vessels executing what their historical records called a thatch weave, a fighter plane tactic from something called World War II. The maneuver allowed seemingly vulnerable craft to protect each other while setting up devastating kill opportunities. Several Alliance interceptors had fallen to this centuries-old strategy just hours ago. When her door chimed, June didn't look up. "Enter," she said, continuing to organize her findings. Commander Day stepped into the room, his normally impeccable uniform showing signs of hasty dressing. Dark circles had formed under his eyes, and his skin had taken on the pale blue coloration that indicated extreme stress in their species. "You requested an urgent meeting," he said, his voice lacking its usual authority. "What have you found?" June turned to face her commander. Once an imposing figure of absolute confidence, Day now seemed diminished, a leader watching his guaranteed victory transform into potential defeat. "Commander, I've been studying human history," June explained, activating a holographic display in the center of the room. "They've been at war with themselves throughout their existence. They've developed thousands of combat strategies against their own kind." The hologram showed a progression of human warfare, from primitive beings with stone tools to massive formations of armor and troops, naval battles, aerial dogfights, and finally their early ventures into space combat. "This species has never known true peace," June continued. Even during their so-called peaceful periods, they were designing weapons, training soldiers, and preparing for the next conflict. Day studied the images with growing unease. But their technology is still inferior to ours. How are they? Technology isn't everything, June interrupted, bringing up footage of the recent battle near Jupiter's moon Europa. Look at this engagement. Our ships formed the standard Valkyrian defense grid, a formation that has repelled attacks from the 7 most advanced civilizations in our sector. The footage showed Alliance vessels arranged in a mathematically perfect pattern designed to provide overlapping fields of fire while maintaining optimal shield coverage, a formation taught in every Alliance military academy. Now watch what the humans did. The human fleet approached not as a unified force, but in seemingly chaotic clusters. Small, agile craft darted forward, drawing fire while larger vessels hung back. Suddenly, the humans scattered in all directions, apparently retreating in disarray. A feigned retreat, Day muttered. A basic tactic. Yes, but watch what happened next. As Alliance vessels broke formation to pursue what seemed like easy targets, the humans sprang their trap. Hidden vessels emerged from Europa's shadow, cutting off the pursuit group. Meanwhile, the retreating humans abruptly reversed course, catching the Alliance ships in a devastating crossfire. They're implementing tactics from multiple eras of their history simultaneously, June explained. Here they use something from their medieval period called a feigned retreat, combined with an ambush technique from their Vietnam War. Our tactical computers can't predict these combinations because they don't follow mathematical logic. They follow psychological intuition. A new alert sounded and both officers turned to see fresh battle reports. Another Alliance battleship had fallen, the Unyielding Resolve, captured rather than destroyed by a human boarding party using tactics apparently inspired by something called piracy. Commander Day sank into a seat, his composure finally cracking. How? How can a species that only achieved space travel 2 centuries ago defeat us so thoroughly? June accessed another file, a human historical text called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. They understand something we don't, Commander. While we see war as a mathematical equation, a problem of superior numbers and technology, they see it as a psychological contest. They know that defeating the enemy's mind is more important than destroying their bodies. She displayed intercepts of human communications between their military leaders. In one, Admiral Kim told his captains, "We don't need to destroy every Alliance ship. We just need to make them doubt their invincibility." The evidence was clear in Earth's counterattack. Humans implemented tactics from countless historical conflicts, making their movements unpredictable. While Alliance forces followed established protocols refined over centuries of relatively bloodless conquests, humans fought with the desperate creativity of a species that had been killing itself, in increasingly clever ways throughout its existence. Their adaptation speed is unlike anything in our records, June continued, bringing up images of human weapons that had clearly been reverse-engineered from Alliance technology. 6 months ago, they had never seen our shield systems. Now they've not only understood the principles, but improved upon them. She pulled up her most disturbing finding, human historical records showing how quickly they had advanced from primitive flight to space travel, from basic atomic weapons to antimatter containment. They were never peaceful beings awaiting conquest. June warned, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. They were predators taking a break. Outside the viewport, a flash of light drew their attention. Another Alliance vessel, the Righteous Dawn, listed helplessly as human ships swarmed around it. Unlike traditional conquerors who would destroy a disabled enemy, the humans were boarding the ship, capturing technology, gathering intelligence, learning. Our entire strategic approach is based on overwhelming force against unprepared enemies, June said. But these humans, war isn't something they do, it's something they are. Commander Day watched as the Righteous Dawn's engines flared, now under human control, and the massive ship began moving toward the Alliance formation. For the first time in his military career, he felt fear, not just of defeat, but of something worse. They won't just defeat us, he realized aloud. They'll take everything we know, everything we've built across 1,000 worlds, and make it their own. June nodded grimly. And the worst part? We showed them where to find those 1,000 worlds. A new alarm sounded. Proximity alert. On the tactical display, dozens of human vessels appeared, approaching in a formation no Alliance tactician would ever devise. It looked chaotic, wasteful, inefficient, and utterly unpredictable. "Signal the fleet," Commander Day ordered, standing straighter despite his fear. "Fall back to defensive position Omega. We need to regroup and—" He trailed off as June displayed one final piece of data. The humans had already anticipated this. Move and positioned forces to intercept them at the fallback point. "They don't just think like predators," June said quietly. "They think like us pretending to be them. They've been analyzing our patterns just as I've been analyzing theirs." Commander Day stared at the tactical display, watching as the mighty Stellar Alliance, conquerors of 7 galaxies, found itself outmaneuvered by creatures who only months ago he had dismissed as primitive savages. "Send a message to High Command," he said finally. Tell them we've awakened something terrible." The massive human fleet gathered in the shadow of Saturn's rings, a collection of vessels that would have been impossible to assemble 9 months earlier. Some were Earth-built warships with newly developed weapons systems. Others were captured. Alien craft, their biomechanical systems now responding to human commands. The centerpiece was the Phoenix, Admiral Kim's flagship, retrofitted with technology reverse-engineered from 7 different alien vessels. In the command center, Admiral Kim studied the final battle plans projected above the circular war table. Around him stood the unified leadership of Earth, military commanders from nations that had been enemies only a year ago, now working in perfect coordination. "The Stellar Alliance fleet has consolidated around their command ship," reported Captain Park, pointing to the tactical display showing the remaining alien vessels forming a defensive sphere. "They've adapted their formation to counter our previous attacks." Admiral Kim nodded. "As expected, they're finally learning, but too late." He turned to Dr. Han, who held a small device that pulsed with soft blue light. "Is it ready?" Dr. Han nodded, dark circles under her eyes from countless sleepless nights. "The neutralizer is calibrated to target their bioneural system specifically. It will disable their technology without harming their biological components. Range is limited, though. You'll need to deploy it inside their command vessel." Kim took the device, studying its simple design. "A humane weapon," he said quietly. "Perhaps more mercy than they showed us." The room fell silent, as everyone remembered the Mars massacre, the initial attack that had killed hundreds of thousands without warning or provocation. "We strike in 3 hours," Admiral Kim announced, his voice cutting through the silence. "Each ship knows its role. This isn't about revenge, it's about security, about making sure this never happens to Earth or any other world again." Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Commander Day reviewed what remained of his once mighty invasion force. More than 2/3 of their vessels had been destroyed or captured. The survivors clustered protectively around the command ship, their formation designed to maximize defensive capability. "Status of the human fleet?" he asked Officer Sun. "They've gathered near Saturn. Our long-range sensors show they're preparing for a major assault." Day nodded grimly. "And our communication with Alliance High Command?" "Still blocked, Commander. The humans have established some kind of quantum interference pattern that prevents our faster-than-light communications from reaching home." 9 months into what should have been a routine conquest, Day faced the unthinkable. Not just defeat, but isolation. The mighty Stellar Alliance, which had conquered 1,000 worlds across 7 galaxies, had never encountered a species like humanity, never faced a civilization that turned the invaders' own technology against them so quickly, so effectively. "Commander?" Intelligence Officer June approached, her movements hesitant. "I've completed my final analysis of human psychology. There might be a way to salvage this situation." "Speak," Day ordered, desperation evident in his voice. "The humans value life. Even their enemies' lives. They've largely captured rather than destroyed our forces when possible. They've studied us as thoroughly as we've studied them. I believe they might accept terms." Day's skin darkened with anger. "Terms? The Stellar Alliance does not negotiate. With respect, Commander," June interrupted. They are not primitive. Different, yes. Their technology began at a lower level, but they've advanced more in 9 months than most species do in decades. They don't think like us, but that doesn't make them lesser. As they debated, the sensor officer suddenly shouted, "Massive energy surge from the human fleet. They're moving." The main view screen showed hundreds of human vessels accelerating toward them, not in the chaotic patterns of previous attacks, but in perfect, disciplined formations. They had studied alliance tactics and were now using them, but with subtle variations that made their intentions difficult to predict. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, watching as Earth's combined forces moved into attack position. Each ship group represented a different nation or coalition, yet they moved as one fleet, one purpose. "All vessels, this is Admiral Kim," he broadcast to the entire human armada. "For 9 months, we have fought to survive against an enemy that thought us weak. Today, we show them that humanity stands united. This ends today. They struck first. We finish it." The human fleet suddenly split into 3 distinct attack groups, approaching from different vectors. The alien formation responded predictably, adjusting shields and weapons to counter the most obvious threat. But this was exactly what Kim had anticipated. "Execute Operation Trojan," he ordered. At his command, 20 seemingly damaged human vessels that had been drifting near the battle zone suddenly accelerated toward the rear of the alien formation, directly at the command ship. The alien vessels, focused on the main attack groups, detected the approach too late. "Boarding teams, prepare for insertion," Kim ordered as the Phoenix joined the assault, its advanced shields absorbing enemy fire that would have vaporized Earth. Ships months earlier. The battle erupted across the void of space. Energy weapons lancing between vessels, fighter craft executing impossibly tight maneuvers, massive capital ships exchanging thunderous broadsides. But unlike previous encounters, the humans weren't fighting to destroy. They were fighting to reach one target, the Eternal Dominion. On the command ship's bridge, chaos reigned as proximity alarms blared. "Multiple hull breaches," reported Officer Sun. "Human boarding parties have penetrated sectors 7 through 12. Internal defenses are failing." Commander Day drew his sidearm. "Prepare for internal defense. We will not surrender the Eternal Dominion." But the humans moved with shocking speed through the ship, using non-lethal weapons to incapacitate the crew. They had studied the vessel's layout from captured ships and moved directly toward the command center. The bridge doors exploded inward in a shower of sparks. Through the smoke stepped Admiral Kim, flanked by armored soldiers. His face, visible through his helmet visor, showed no triumph or hatred, only grim determination. As human forces secured the bridge, Commander Day faced Admiral Kim directly. For a moment, the two leaders, so different in form but perhaps not so different in purpose, regarded each other in silence. "Your species was supposed to surrender," Day said, his weapon still raised but clearly outmatched. "Why fight when victory seemed impossible?" Admiral Kim stepped forward, removing his helmet. The scar across his face, a reminder of the early days of the invasion, caught the light. "Because humans don't understand impossible. We've spent our entire history overcoming it." He reached into his suit and withdrew Dr. Han's device. "This won't kill you or your people, but it will ensure you can never threaten another world again." "And then you'll destroy us?" Day asked, preparing for execution. "No," Kim replied. "Then you'll go home and tell others what you learned here." He activated the neutralizing device, which pulsed once, sending invisible waves throughout the ship. Instantly, the biomechanical systems that powered the vessel began shutting down in sequence. "Remember that when you tell others about us," Kim said as the device completed its work. "Earth is not alone anymore, and we will never be unprepared again." 3 weeks later, Admiral Kim stood in the thin Martian atmosphere, his environment suit glinting in the pale sunlight. Around him, construction drones rebuilt what had once been Mars' colony, but now with defense systems integrated into its very foundations. Before him stood a simple memorial, built from both earth stone and materials salvaged from defeated alien vessels. The monument featured a sphere representing Earth, with a simple plaque written in multiple Earth languages and the now deciphered language of the Stellar Alliance. "They struck first, then learned why you never push Earth too far. Earth had earned its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as a species that would never again be underestimated. The captured alien vessels had yielded star maps, communications technology, and faster-than-light travel capabilities that would have taken humanity centuries to develop independently. More importantly, they had yielded knowledge of other civilizations, some peaceful, some not, throughout the galaxy. Humanity was no longer alone, no longer isolated on its small blue planet. As Kim turned from the memorial, he saw the first ships of Earth's new deep space fleet rising from the Martian construction facilities. Their designs merged human ingenuity with adapted alien technology, creating vessels unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. "Admiral," called a voice over his comm system, "the Stellar Alliance representatives have arrived at Jupiter Station for the treaty negotiations." Kim smiled slightly. "Tell them I'm on my way. And remind them, we come in peace this time." As his shuttle lifted off from the Martian surface, Kim watched the memorial shrink beneath him. Humanity had been forced to reveal its true nature, its capacity for adaptation, its tenacity, its will to survive against all odds. The galaxy would never be the same, neither would humanity. The end.